Last week, I talked about the funding and income and basically the burn rate of my studio over the last 6 months, and also looking all the way back to my entire 18-month journey. I'll leave a link to the description up above for that video if you want to watch that first, because I think that does give some really important context to this discussion, which is going to be looking forward a little bit more to see what I'm going to do in the next coming weeks, months. I don't like to say years, but maybe over the course of a year, because a lot of this stuff changes. A lot of this stuff will change based off of the success or failures of my games. And I want to leave that optionality open as I'm sitting here thinking about this in my head. So if I sit down and I rigidly say, this is what I'm doing in the next year, that kind of makes it harder for me to pivot. And so when I talk about it and when I think about these things, I want to keep them open that, yeah, stuff changes. I'm an emotional being. My life changes. The things I'm doing changes. All that stuff is very subject to change, not to mention how the games actually release. So this is a dive into the future of my studio, basically after 18 months of having ran a studio as a solo developer. And I like to kind of dive in and talk about all of the different games. So one of the biggest buckets that I'm learning is important for me is continual bundles, marketing, and discounts. As I talked about in the last video, Chess Survivors recently got added to a nice bundle with Passant, which has been selling a lot of copies. And a YouTuber, I Want Checkmate, actually played the game on their YouTube channel, and that re-engaged a lot of sales. Actually, in the last 30 days, Chess Survivors has sold like $1,300 or $1,400, which I think typically it'd sell like $200 to $300. So there's some continual marketing that I could do with my games, and so that's something I want to keep as an intention for all of the games, whether that's Hexagod, Chess Survivors, a game about a black hole, or anything else I'm doing, continually kind of hitting those marketing beats so I can like keep those long tail of sales healthy, because that's going to support the studio in the long run. Hey, Aarimous from the future here. The best way to support the channel right now is to go check out my games over on Steam, and you can do that. I'd recommend you do it through the Aarimous Bundle. Now, I just lowered my bundle discount from 10% to 20% for like a coming of fall or a Pizza Friday discount or something like that, and you can pick up both Hexagod and Chess Survivors for a limited time at like a 20% off discount before I move it back to the 10%, which is the normal bundle discount. I also know that money is tight for a lot of people right now, so if you can't support me this way, a simple like, a friendly comment, or recommending my channel to a friend or family member will also go a long way. And if none of those things apply to you and you just want to hang out and watch Aarimous talk about game development, well, I have good news for you. We're going to dive right back into that. Thank you so much for the support. Now, if you've been around the channel, you know that I've been working on game number 2 for quite a while now, and that is Hexagod. And unfortunately speaking, Hexagod has not sold nearly as much as I would need it to be to like commit to another 200, 300, 400 hours of early access development. So I have capped this at 80 hours, and what that's essentially going to look like in the coming months, you can see up here I have a little bit of a breakdown of the timeline. You can see here what that's going to look like is basically from now until probably March or April-ish, doing about 5 to 10 hours of Hexagod development every time it goes on sale, which is looking at like once a month, because there's a 30-day cooldown for sales. So kind of once a month, that lends itself to like 5 to 10 more patches of Hexagod. And if I can do one relic or one tile improvement or one building every hour, that looks like 80 things added to the game still. As far as content goes, and I think I'd be pretty happy with that being kind of the full scope of Hexagod. I'm trying so desperately to not take my time and energy, which is my only resource as a developer, and throw it after something that hasn't proven to be financially successful. It's okay if you want to do that with your games. My goal is to make a profitable studio, and so I'm trying to get to the point where I can be ruthlessly efficient with my project management of myself and my time as a studio, so that I can use it more efficiently, so that I can scale and be doing this in a way where I'm actually turning a profit, I'm not burning money, and I'm saving for retirement, I'm investing in the studio, I'm growing it bigger, because maybe someday Aarimous Studios will have employees. But I got to get to that point because I don't really want to take outside investment. So Hexagod is coming to an end, but that's going to look like a longer tail. Now, I could also sit down and say 2 weeks somewhere, maybe the end of the year, I spend 2 weeks kind of grind out Hexagod and rip off the Band-Aid and call that done. But I also think there's something nice about kind of just slowly re-engaging that game and doing those updates as like a break between other games, because game number 3, a game about a black hole down here, has been the project I've been working on a lot in the last couple months, and it's going really well. I just took this game to a playtest in it's the IGDA Twin Cities chapter, where I had 6 people. It's a 3-hour window. 6 people played the game. There was always someone who wanted to play next, and everybody actually finished the demo, which takes about 30 minutes. And there's this really cool moment within the first 3 minutes where they get hooked, and then they kind of just kept playing until the demo was done, which is really, really successful and positive. So right now, as you can see here, we are right here in the September timeframe. I'm wrapping up the demo. I need to still add in a save system, localization, and controller support, because I really want to hit this demo with like this kind of feature complete thing, so that when we get to making the full game, it's just content and balance, and that the demo is buttoned up. I can hit it with the Next Fest at the right amount of time, because these Next Fest, Steam Next Fest, are the cornerstone of my strategy moving forward as a developer. These are magnificent moments to get your demos showcased, to get more people to play them, to have YouTubers engage in the games. It's like a pre-marketing beat for your actual release, and I want to try to hit all 3 of them. So you can see in this calendar, there's one in October, there's one in February, and there's one in June. Now, the nice thing to note is to join it, you have to have a published Steam page, and it's about 2 months before the actual date is when the deadline is. But you can pull out at any time. Steam is really grateful. You can pull out at the very last second, and then add it into a subsequent Next Fest after the fact. So it doesn't really hurt you to add it in. It only like hurts you to actually like burn it. So you can only ever be in one Next Fest, but you can pull out right before the Next Fest begins if you're not actually ready and you want to instead postpone it. So my goal is to have 3 games in the next year, 1 in each Next Fest. And so a game about a black hole is going to be demo here, full game, trying to get it done by the middle of November, and then having kind of some post-release support and hit that winter sale with the game release to really kind of have that huge marketing beat at the end of the year. And honestly, the timeline of this is driven by the fact that there's a February Next Fest coming up. And so game number 4, yes, I'm already thinking game number 4 has to be in the works already. And that really pushes the timeline of game number 3, a game out of black hole, and forces me to have to worry about scope creep and deadlines and kind of planning the stuff out, so that I'm starting to dedicate some time to the idea phase of game number 4. Now, my big worry with this is that that's a lot of time. It's just a lot. There's not a lot of time. There's a lot to do. And so game number 4 is really going to probably be incremental game V2. Taking what Thornady and I, who I'm partnering with to make a game about a black hole, he's doing the balance and kind of the marketing side of it all. But take what we learned about a game about a black hole in number 3, use the same tech tree system, use kind of the same game structure, and then insert a new mechanic that we explore in game number 4. So basically do a game about a black hole, take the learnings we did, do it more efficiently, do it quicker, so that when it comes time to maybe start looking at what I'm going to put in the June Next Fest, I can maybe do a bit bigger of a game or a bit different game, because I know that after doing 2 incremental games in a row, I'm probably going to want to do something else. And so as I'm looking at game number 4 right now, I'm thinking, oh, wow, if full game of this game comes out in November for a game about a black hole, I need to start thinking about the ideas and what I want to do for game number 4 now. And so I've started to think and kind of let that percolate, let the coffee brew, let those idea juices churn to see what we could do, given that we want to take a lot of the structure from a game about a black hole that we like and just change the concept, change the way you're scaling this incremental game, and then bring that into game number 4. So idea phase, demo phase, hit the demo for the February Next Fest right here, full game or launch probably March or April, and then post-release support. And then that means a game number 5 is probably also going to be starting in March. So you can see how this timeline starts stacking up really nicely with using these Next Fest as kind of these huge anchors and cornerstones of when release cadences will happen. That means the idea phase for number 5 kind of has to start now. I have a whole backlog of ideas of things I want to make and do, But I need to really get to the point where I'm starting to think about what's the shape of the game. What can actually be done and fit into game number 5, and how can maybe I do something a bit bigger and a bit different. And that's kind of fun. It's also pretty scary. And like I said at the beginning of the video, it's all driven off of the success of a game about a black hole. Say this game pops off and does super well. That can change what the future of all these things look like. Maybe instead of hitting June or hitting the February Next Fest, we instead pull this out and say, let's work on this game more. Let's invest more of our time into making there be more content. Let's capitalize on some of this success. Maybe, oh, this game is not doing very well. Let's cut the post-release support and kind of just like cut our losses and move on to game number 4. Or game number 3 and 4 do well, and all of a sudden this game gets moved way down the line, and we're making a really big game number 4 because maybe I've earned enough to hire an artist full-time, hire a 3D modeler, hire X, Y, and Z to do all those things. And so a few of the ideas I have laid out for games that I'm interested in doing, like I said with number 4, do a game about a black hole, but do it faster and more efficiently. Game number 5, I'm kind of interested in exploring the more like slow-paced incremental games, like a Dredge type incremental game. I think you could also maybe think about like Dave the Diver in that same regard. I think those are the same devs who made those games, but something in that regard where it's a little bit slower, maybe taking some inspiration from World of Warcraft mining nodes. I really love just exploring that world and finding mining nodes. So there could be something in that space of doing mine, come back, build base, become more efficient, unlock better tools to go out and kind of this resource gathering incremental type game. That could be game number 5, but that also feels like a little bit bigger of a game than I need to. So maybe there's a smaller idea in there that I could explore. An idea that came up recently was Chess Survivors 2, which again is like, there's parts of this game that I did really well. The name, the branding of it were awesome, but there's some things in there that I wanted to maybe do differently, which is like having some actual end of act boss fights, some different types of damage. You think like elemental stuff, elemental effects, so that you actually kind of get build variety, some different enemy varieties, or maybe entirely it's leaning more into chess and seeing the success of games like Basant, or insert other chess games here, and trying to lean more into the chess side of it to explore that side, where I think Chess Survivors was a much more survivor-based game, exploring what it would look like with kind of pseudo turn-based stuff. So that could be an idea. I like the concept of Loop Hero, but I think the game sucks. That's my opinion. I played it and I hate it. It's not boring. No, it is boring for me. It's not interesting. So doing something like Loop Hero, or maybe He Is Coming in my own vein of something that I think is interesting, maybe adding in some crafting mechanics with like PoE type currencies. Who knows? That also sounds like kind of a big idea. And then my final idea that I still have in the back of my head is take Slay the Spire, but make it cribbage. The big issue with that is you probably have never played cribbage, and that's the issue. I love cribbage. I've played hundreds, if not thousands of games, definitely thousands of games in my life throughout childhood, playing with my dad and his friends, to teaching it to my friends in college, and playing it throughout my adulthood now. It's a game that has kind of been around my whole life. And because of that, I think I can make a unique game in that genre that could be fun. And so maybe it's like the cribbage part of it is not part of the marketing and the branding, but instead the card-based mechanics, kind of like think Balatro, but cribbage, but instead of like high score chasing, you're killing enemies. I don't know. I love Slay the Spire. I love Balatro. I've always wanted to make a card-based game. So that's at the back of my mind, but this also feels like probably a 2-year project to really make a good one that I'm like passionate about. And that really doesn't fit into this whole Next Fest discussion. So this is interesting. This is the next couple months at least, and all of this is subject to change over time. I'll be live on Twitch after this video goes live. If you want to come hang out, talk about some of my ideas in the future, we can brainstorm game ideas, or we can simply lean into finishing the demo for a game about a black hole and just celebrate that week that was. If you have pizza ready, it is Pizza Friday. I give you an excuse to go ahead and eat that. I hope you enjoy it. I certainly am going to be having a pepperoni pizza when this day is all said and done. Thank you so much for hanging out. I've been Aarimous. Have a lovely day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.